I'd like to welcome everybody to the January 16, 2023, 1:30 p.m. City Council meeting. Chair recognizes the presence of a quorum. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation to be given by council. Repeat office. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's bow. Father in heaven, we thank you for this day which you have granted us to rise and see again. We thank you for the rain which we received here the last couple of days. And most of all, Father, we want to come thanking you for the employees that work for this city to try to make things better for our citizens. And also, we want to thank you for blessing our city as we continue to try to grow. And we continue to ask your blessing to be upon us. In Christ Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. At this time, we'll entertain any questions or comments from citizens. I see none. We'll move on to item 5, City Manager's Monthly Report.
So it's been a busy month or so, but go over just a few, just a little bit quick on the financials. We're still pretty close to where we normally are. We'll notice in the general fund, we have invoiced the industrial district contracts a little early at the industry request. So you see that big jump in revenue over expenditures, which is kind of common this time of the year as that comes in. Water and sewer still got strong revenue over expenditures. Of course, we build those revenues up over the course of the first 7 months or so for those bond payments that come out in July, but everything's still on track. You'll notice sales tax remains, it's just incrementally up this month. It's still up about another 3%, but considering we've got that payment coming out, we're still seeing strong sales tax collections, which are positive. And then hotel occupancy is being strong. We expect that to continue to go throughout the rest of the year, as there is a small maintenance turnaround going on at the plant right now. If you've noticed, some of the RV parks are a little fuller, and so we expect that to show up in the hotel occupancy tax as well. Both those are above our budgeted amount with the strong balances there. With projects, some of the projects going on, you will notice that they started on the downtown project now that the rain has stopped, on the sidewalks just at the corner outside of City Hall. So that should be.
Garrett, exactly what are they doing?
So right now, they're taking out all the old curb and sidewalk, and then they'll lay new curb and sidewalk.
Okay.
So right now at the corner of 7th and Main, they're doing, because that's the intersection that we've got to maintain access to the real estate agency's parking lot.
Yeah.
So that's why you see it kind of fenced in weird segments, because they'll do half of that at first, and because that concrete, once it's poured, it's got to cure for a period of time. So they'll get it poured, they'll get it cured, then they'll remove the fencing for the part they did, move to the next part, and then that way they've got access, the real estate company's got access to that parking lot, and then they'll go all the way down the east side of the road, all the way from 7th to 8th. And then they'll do all 4 corner ramps at 8th, and they're doing the 3 corner ramps here at 7th. So they don't have to do the one at the Morley, because it was redone when the Morley did it.
Okay.
The bigger part, the more complicated part, will be right there in front of the, just on the other side of Jalisco's, where there's the big train gap that will eventually get a railing, because it's a big enough gap that it has to get a railing. And then again, they will be tearing down the building, and the 400 block is part of that too.
Okay. Okay.
Does that
I take.
answer that well enough?
Yeah, it's good. So the reason I asked, somebody asked me what was going on, and I said, well, we have to redo that.
Which is what we're doing, and like I said, that is a TDA grant that's paying for that, so it's a $350,000 grant with a 25% match, so we've got about $400,000 allocated to that. If you remember, that's the one that came in under budget.
Under budget.
So we're in the process of trying to modify that grant to get the decorative street lights for the east side of the road. The grant had always included the conduit, should we eventually fund those with the Main Street project, but now the project came in line, so we're gonna go and try to snag those. Might only just be those 4 lights on that side of the street, but while the grant money's there.
Yeah.
And then they've got our pre-construction meeting for the group seal coating project later this month, so we expect the seal coating to start regionally probably later this month. I think we're probably going to be in the July timeframe with the way they're doing it this year. That contractor, he's probably going to be in Borger doing our streets for less than 2 days.
Okay.
And so they said that Missouri Petroleum, we talked about when we awarded that contract, they're a textile level contractor, so they come in a hurry. So they'll have a big crew. I think the engineer was saying about 40 people, lay it down and get it swept up and be out of here. But that probably sometime in June is coming. We executed the contracts last week for the 10th Street reconstruction project. So that's the last administrative phase. So we'll have a pre-construction meeting probably in a couple of weeks as we give official notice to proceed, and then that project will start. I expect construction probably to start sometime in early July for that. If you recall, it is phased, so the first phase will be the utilities in the north side of the street. North side of the street mainly because that's where the utilities are that we're going to be digging up, so we'll have to relocate the utilities and then redo the north side and the first third of the Meggert Street parking lot, give or take. Phase 2 will be the south side of the road. Phase 3 will be the rest of the Meggert parking lot.
Okay.
So we're still looking about 12-month total time frame on that, but I know the end project will be worth it, but I'm sure we're gonna
Oh, yeah. Like I said,
be needing to educate some in the next couple of months.
changed my walking route.
With that, and then that's kind of, we're still on the list for the test hole drilling for the expansion in the northwest well field. Hopefully that'll be sometime in the next 3 weeks, but that's kind of the big projects we have going on. Going through the departments, plan development, they executed a search warrant at 108 Maple, administrative search warrant to get that house to building standards. If you recall, that's the house that we had the citizen complain on a month or so ago with the cats. And so that one is progressing. Appreciate John and Stephen with code enforcement working with fire department to don their Tyvek suits and SCBAs to go in and gather the information needed, but it's going to have to come down.
Okay.
And so we've started that process, and you know, as y'all know, that takes a little bit of time, but they are working on it. Got 2 commercial projects under review right now. One of those is they're kind of both tied to BEDC projects. That's the Cezanne's building that the BEDC bought on Main Street from Miss Gambrell a couple of years ago. And I did indicate in the council's weekly update that we might have a potential business that's interested in that. So we'll see how that goes. That could be a good project. And then we're also we do have the plans for the Happy Heart Yoga, which is the incentive agreement for the building on 3rd Street that was approved. And if you haven't noticed, the Starbucks is open.
Yeah.
Lines all over the place, yeah.
So we'll see how long that is. I have noticed that it's still been a pretty decent crowd over at Scooters too. So I know that there are a lot of people that probably refuse to go to Starbucks for any reason, and then their menus are different. But was kind of wondering how that would be. But so I know there should be some happy people with that. Code enforcement also did get a couple of structures torn down on R-Line Street. Now that we're getting that staff trained up back in the Operation Facelift contract, and then they're also in the middle of hiring all their seasonal help for the right-of-way crew and all that. And after all this rain, they're going to be probably busy pretty soon, because weeds grow faster than my yard, and my yard is growing really fast. So I can't imagine what the weeds are doing. Of course, HR has had a busy couple of weeks, and will continue to have a busy couple of weeks as she's hiring all the summer help and the lifeguards and everything with that. We also did fill up all of our slots for the employee health fair that we've got scheduled for June 13th, which is our preventative screening. So we got all those 40 spots filled up. So it's nice to see that our employees kind of taking advantage of that easy opportunity to get their wellness benefit and maybe catch some things early or continue to try to stay healthy. So finance has also been working on a few new projects. So they've been working on revamping our inventory room, which is what we call you might hear it referred to as stores, which is our office supply closet back there. So as we're trying to reduce our credit card transactions and be more mindful of that, we're trying to get more stuff in there that we just store and the departments come here and get it. so we can reduce the number of transactions. So they've got everything into our new inventory software. Eventually, there'll be a little handheld device in there. The departments just come in, scan the item they're taking, enter the quantity, and scan their department number, and then it's logged into the system to make that easier. We're also getting ready to implement a new fixed asset module to keep track of our fixed assets. That's buildings and stuff like that. The Encode module's always been a little funky with that, and the auditor kind of had some questions with how that works. So this will make that a lot easier, and we won't have to rely on Eddie to come in and work on all that with the way that he had it kind of all, he had it all set up in Encode, so it's a very specific way.
But this is an Encode module.
This is a standalone module.
Oh, it's standalone, okay.
Because in reality, for accounting purposes, we just have to make one fixed asset entry at the end of each year.
Okay.
And apply depreciation. So this gives us a lot better, because it's to look up inventory or to find inventory or to add inventory, assets in Encode is not very user-friendly at all. And so this software, it was like $2,500. It's not a lot. And it's web-based, and so we can access it and better control how we account for all those assets. It's especially more geared up at, because we've got a lot of big projects coming up. We're going to be adding value, but like 10th Street, it's not a new asset, but it's going to have a much higher value once we've reconstructed it. And so keep in mind that when we talk assets for the city, that's every water line, that's every street, that's every building. Now, a lot of that we don't track as assets because we've already fully depreciated it, so a lot of it doesn't have any value. But as we improve things, we can keep that up and cut that back over time. So that's what we're working on. And if you look at reports, we've done a pretty good job at revamping our credit card usage. If you remember, that was one of the things mentioned in the audit. If you look in our monthly report this year, the percentage of charges that were credit card used, I think were 47% this last month, where it had been like 90. And so we're definitely getting a lot better at that. Gives us a little more control over that, so we're excited to see that. Fire department's also been very busy this month. We did officially begin EMS service yesterday morning. And so that, for the most part, unless Mike disagrees with me, I think went as smoothly as we would have hoped. So I'm just kind of want to thank both Mike and Jamie and Jeff for all their hard work and getting all this together in such a short amount of time. And it's definitely a team effort. Thank the fire department for embracing all of them are embracing kind of a new operating mindset now with that as well. And so they've been very open and supportive of that. And of course, we're very thankful for the staff that's come over and the service that they're going to provide to our community. We did have the open house last weekend. You know, everybody got to see the equipment. So hopefully nobody ever needs it. But if you do need the ambulance, you know, I think we probably now have the best equipment and the best service anywhere around here. Yeah. So I'm quite excited for that and appreciative of everybody's support.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that confidence high we're going to do a better job for less money. And y'all's efforts will save the city some money.
And I have been kind of reminding some people, you know, this is not something we sought.
Right.
This is a response to somebody else's actions. And so in the end, I think it's going to work out good for everybody. And we've seen a lot of partnerships come together between Fritch and the county and the hospital district, and it's been really nice to see so many different people work together. Had pretty good feedback, you know, from the fire guys that showed up in Fritch, you know, when we had the open house out there, and so.
Yeah, and I'll say kudos to you. There's not too many people that can bridge all those agencies gracefully. So.
And in a short period of time.
So you did a good job. Thanks, sir.
I appreciate that, and it was quite satisfying yesterday to know that at least that phase of it is behind me, and now I can say it's not my problem, it's Mike's. Which is good, because now he can say it's not his problem, it's Jeff's. I have replied to that. The DEA, we're still waiting on the DEA license, but that should be later this week. They've confirmed our status. We've got the safe, and once they do their on-site inspection, I think that should be, we'll have it by the end of the week. Okay. So everything seems to be going well there. Everything fits. into the bays, even if it's just barely, in both here and Fridge, but they do fit, and I think, you know, it seems like the crews are more than welcome to be a little more careful backing it up for the extra space and having nice equipment, so we're excited for that. In addition to that, the fire department was busy with all the events going on in the community over last month. They were out at Baby Animal Day. They worked with Borger Middle School for their science fair that was earlier last month. They were out at the Fridge Fortress for their event out there. They gave fire extinguisher training to Serco. They got the youth center's summer employees. They got all their CPR training and first aid training that's required from our standards of care that we passed earlier for our youth program. So they've all been trained in first aid and CPR as we get ready for Park Rec and the swimming pool to open. They were at the Methodist Church for the Touch a Truck event earlier this month. They participated in Snack Pack for Kids. And of course, I know that some of you interacted with them at the Family Days, the Health and Safety Fair. So they were there in several different locations doing several different things. And then, of course, the transfer to EMS. They had 2 firefighters that went off downstate with Phillips 66 for industrial firefighter training. So we're continuing our partnerships there and excited to see that. And of course, the last thing is we did pass our inspection and get our EMS license, which I guess I should have said that before I said that we started providing EMS service. But definitely busy there. Police Department, Daryl, our animal control supervisor, has received his animal control administration certification. So that's some more of that P in our Boomtown Pride, working on our professional development. So we're excited for him. They're currently planning an August event with the Youth Center for an adoption, microchipping, animal control safety type knowledge event. So we're excited for that. The Police Department also participated in Snack Pack for Kids this last month. And of course, I know that Councilman Loftus was out there with their motorcycles, right, at the safety fair. So
Chief wouldn't let me ride.
I offered, I was just specific which one I could ride.
You can scratch
he
it.
said he didn't want
not
to
his.
he
Don't
said he didn't
scratch
want to
his.
show off and point out your weaknesses. So he just
You didn't want to pedal, huh?
No.
The Motor Squad also went downstate and participated in the Medal of Honor event down south, escorting the Medal of Honor winners. We did have a pretty big meth bust over last month, which was enough to warrant a distribution charge. So we do continue to work those narcotics, even though it's I keep reminding the council, I want to kind of keep reminding the public of this, is we don't always broadcast that because broadcasting can sometimes underpin our ability to turn those cases into bigger cases or get them to other agencies to do more work. And then we were also informed that Corporal Tullis has been nominated and was selected to receive the State of Texas Law Enforcement Achievement Award. So that will be presented in Austin on June 16th. That's related to the shooting earlier last year. So we're excited to see that state recognition, and I know several of us will be down there, and we'll have more on that when it happens. But I think there again just kind of reinforces more of that Boomtown pride and that professionalism and all those things that we provide to our citizens. In Public Works, they attended the Keep Texas Beautiful training in Dumas offered by the PRPC. Jason Winston, they got a lot of good feedback and being able to talk to some of those people in different areas. So we're going to work on some training with Parks and Rec. I think PRPC is going to come over and do a Keep Texas Beautiful training program for our Park Rec kids, which that's kind of a good age to, show them that, that throwing something out the window or not putting the litter in the trash has some more consequences than that. If you've been on Facebook, we're getting ready. We've working a little harder on the trash patch this year, so we've reinstituted teams and making it, more of a kind of a competition again, other than just, free disposition at the transfer station. So Deidre's been doing a good job on that. Our pothole patcher that we ordered a year and a half ago, or it's been longer than that now. It's been a long time. It wasn't last. It was not fiscal 22's budget. I think it was ordered in fiscal 21's budget. It is finally, the chassis is here, and we should have it in the 1st of June.
Great.
Yeah.
So that's also when the hydrovac truck, the sewer truck, is supposed to be here. So we are finally maybe starting to see some things come in. Public Works also helped with cones and some other signage setting up for the safety fair. And of course, they got some signage made for EMS that they were required for their station and other identification for that. We did finally get the light pole, the light stanchion in at Huber Park that was vandalized, so that pole has been replaced. Our park equipment in Huber Park has been delayed. So it's supposed to be, and I think I told you all this in a weekly update, but for the public, it's supposed to be delayed in June, but we're gonna hold on to it and wait. We don't wanna install new park equipment in the middle of the summer park rec program and in the middle of the summer. So we'll probably get that scheduled for installation later in August. We're going through some difficulties with the Huber Park splash pad. So we've got some new cord. Now they think it's the cords, but they link the actuators to the control panel, the buttons that you push to turn it on. So if you get any comments, we know that it's not on. We're kind of trying to turn it on manually for special groups or during special times. But this is the third correction of this spring trying to get it ready. So we're still working on that. And of course, in our consent agenda, we've got the bid for the new equipment for the new splash pad that's budgeted to go into Buena Vista Park later this year. So at least maybe next year we'll have a second option. The splash pad in Huber Park's now 15 years old. So we are trying to stay on it, but we're having some things there. We are working to fill 2 openings in solid waste. One was a position that we never filled that I think we forgot about. So we've got it posted, and then we did have 1 employee turnover in that department that we're hiring for as well. And then they have been, after the meeting with Keep Texas Beautiful, Jason Winston and Wayne have been working good with Deidre on the trash bash that's coming up, so we're excited to see that. In the fire marshal's office and in the city secretary's office, we'd like to congratulate both Jason Pender and Stella Sauls for obtaining their certified public manager certification. So they have now completed all the requirements for that, and now it'll be Jason Pender CPM, and I guess Stella Sauls TMRC CPM. So we're proud of the efforts that they put in for that, and that provides a lot of different education on a lot of different aspects of municipal government, and I know it's been very beneficial to both of them, and it's so many city employees come up kind of siloed in their little departments, and I think CPM's really good at opening your eyes to the whole aspect of it. I know that just an instance, Stella has a newfound appreciation for finance. After going through some of those financial sections and audits, and so we find that very valuable, so we're excited for that. I believe Chief Davis is scheduled to go through the next cohort. So it's a good program. Of course, the fire marshal, Jason, was also pretty busy coordinating and helping with the health and safety fair. We did have the Edith trailer out there, and a lot of good turnout for both days. And there were a lot of cool little things to see. I doubt Excel, I was there Friday. I didn't get by on Saturday because I was doing the EMS thing, but and I doubt they did it on Saturday with the rain, but the Excel ARC demonstration was actually really cool and interesting. And if you didn't get in to see the rollover simulator or the DWI car and simulation that TxDOT had, but lots of good information there. And I think had still a lot of good feedback on the dome. It still amazes me that some people still haven't been in or through the dome, because as many things that's been going on there, if you haven't been there, I'm kind of wondering why. I guess because you don't like leaving home, but we're still excited to see the reaction to all of that. We're just a few leaks with all this rain, but I hate to use a rain shower like we've had that's so much rain over such a long period as a true indication. But I will say they were small, which compared to what the dome used to be like, that's pretty good. And then Jason was one of the guests on the podcast that Deidre's working on that we'll talk a little bit in her section. In utilities, Chris and Mark wanted to reiterate that the sewer's still running good. Everybody's still happy that we don't have anything collapsed, and then we're back ahead of it, so they're excited about that. We did have another blowout at Nutrien a couple of weeks ago, so we're still kind of working through some of, I guess, that bad pipe. Chris is we're gonna coordinate with Nutrien and see if during their next turnover, if we want to go ahead and maybe try to replace all of it. We've replaced a good chunk of it when we did that. There's not much left. But that blowout lost 1.2 million gallons of water. So that pipe at full pressure was blowing out 20,000 gallons of water a minute. But thanks to the water crew and their efforts, they were shut off. They were diverted to the bypass to keep the plant running for a little bit, and we had the line repaired and back in full service within 18 hours. So we are doing our best to, limit that little issue. We've also been working.
When we go to the alternate, does that give them enough supply?
It gives them enough where they don't have to shut the process down.
Okay, so they have to reduce
They have
production.
to reduce production, but that's better than shutting down.
Shutting the process down, which restarts pain.
Right, and so before they had that, when they lost it, they had to they could only maintain fire water and some stuff like that, so the process all started, which then it's a several hour process to start back up, and so they completely lose. So with the bypass, they can shift over and not have to shut the plant down, and so they were just kind of at a reduced capacity for about a day. So, and of course, we would like that not to happen, and that's necessarily not something we want, but again, as I mentioned, I think the last time this happened, one of the questions always comes up from some of the engineers why we didn't do cement pipe all the way into the plant. But cement pipe is lined with steel, and plants use cathodic protection for lightning arresting, and Nutrien didn't have specifics. We couldn't get enough specifics on where their cathodic protection was, and if we put it in the wrong place, that will corrode the steel lining. And so that's why we had the decision. We transitioned from concrete, steel line concrete, to the PVC, utility grade PVC at their plant line, because we couldn't guarantee the cathodic protection. But we've replaced most all of it, so there's only about maybe 150 or 200 feet left. But this again was improper embedment. So they're also working on replacing the meter collector, the little device that reads the meter reads out of Buena Vista on that south tower. It's had some issues and gone back and forth, so Neptune's finally got a new one coming in, so we've been hand reading a little more than we normally do, but that's almost done. And we've been providing information to TxDOT for their sidewalk project that they're going to bid out later this year. They're going to build sidewalks from Tractor Supply down Wilson to the Cloverleaf and up Cedar all the way to the Circle. Both sides. So we've got that big sidewalk project coming, which will be nice. That'll tie into the new sidewalks that we're going to put in on 10th Street. And then we're going to talk about that grant application later in the agenda, which will tie into which could potentially tie into some of that too. OEM, if you haven't noticed, between using county COVID money, we did get a new weather radio broadcast repeater put in place. So the weather radio is back on the air if you've got a NOAA weather radio. So this one is, instead of 1,500 watts, is a full, like 10,000 broadcast watts, or it's big, so its coverage is much, much better, so we're excited about that. We also have the LAPC, we purchased, the LAPC will reimburse us a sulfuric acid mist testing device, which that's what could possibly be coming out of the Tokai plant. Most of that looks worse than it really is, but that's just to have it. And just so people know, Tokai has a shutdown planned for the end of this month, at which point it's going to be maintenance, and the Dutch company that has installed that scrubber, which is causing that problems, is going to have people on site to try to figure out what's going on. So we hope that after that maintenance shutdown, we'll have that issue corrected.
All right, educate me. The scrubbers are going to fix this, but I thought they were going to go to a recapture system and do away with scrubbers. Did I get that wrong?
The scrubber takes out and captures the SO2.
Right.
But that's not, now it's produced, because it's not functioning correctly, it's produced a different product.
Okay.
And so it's the hydrosulfuric acid, the HSO2, or
So there's no recapture.
of the SO2,
Of the, okay,
But that's not what's coming out.
right. Okay.
You know, the other day, it was, the whole valley was full.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
it's-
we had the atmospheric inversion, and so it was pushing everything low. Most of it is, you know, below safety limits. It's not a major health hazard. And most of that is steam and related mist, but they're working on it.
I'm assuming we're getting this because I was told, I won't say by who, that they told the person that asked the question, well, if you have a problem, then call the city and see if they can test it and see if it's hazardous or not. Is that why we're getting the sensor?
I think it's just to confirm some stuff. Tokai is supposed to be testing it inside the plant, but this will allow us to confirm the presence if something, you know, if we do have some sort of weird situation that puts us in a position where we're responding into it.
Right.
To where we'll have the ability to detect its presence and take appropriate.
Because I was told, you know, that they were told to contact the city if we're supposed to be sheltering in place or something like that. So-
Yeah, it is up to us to order shelter-in-place orders. And like I said, I've provided y'all with some information in the past, and the models and stuff, it looks way worse than what the actual health impact is. And you know, that's kind of like, we have limited information because a lot of it isn't reported to us, which they're not required to report it to us, but it's kind of the same thing that, you know, we're not required to tell the citizens a whole lot, but if we don't, you know, we're all held more accountable. So that's, you know, it's one of those transparency related issues to where we try to give as much information as we can because it helps generate cooperation and trust and faith. And so, you know, sometimes when you get on the industry side, you start worrying about liability and some other stuff like that, which closes off communication channels. And, you know, overall, it's not, you know, it's not a safety hazard to the point to where the EPA and the TCEQ and all of us are like, oh my God, this has to stop immediately. I think it's more of an education issue on what exactly is going on. And hopefully at the end of this month, it'll be, or they're going to shut down at the end of this month. I don't know how long it's going to take to work their repairs and do that stuff, but when they shut down, of course, it'll stop.
Right.
And then hopefully when they restart, they'll have everything fixed and working the way that it's supposed to, more along the lines of what's going.
The TCEQ had 2 reps at the fair.
Yeah.
And my impression is they're very local. I don't know how local is, but it's not like they come from Austin. And they showed us the wands and measuring devices, and they said Tokai has the very same wands. And they acted like they would be very receptive to a phone call if somebody thinks something's out of hand, and they can go out to that location.
Yeah, the problem is last time we called them, it took them 4 hours to get here.
Okay, so they're not that local then.
It depends on where they are that day.
So they may be somewhere else in their,
They could have responded from
Area.
Amarillo east of Amarillo an hour or two and then had to come back this way. And so,
okay,
and that's, like Garrison, that's part of the reason that the LEPC agreed to reimburse the city, so that way we could have a much quicker response to get out and see what these levels are for the H2SO4. You know, and like Garrett said, it's a relatively new process, and so there isn't a whole lot of research on it. So that's why there's so much concern, and that's why the LEPC and the city are working together to try to do what we can to help our citizens.
okay. Well, they seem
And
very
Brandon's on the
friendly.
LEPC, so he's been privy to some more of that stuff, so he might be
Right.
better at answering some of these questions. And I mean,
Well-
I get the Reader's Digest version, but
Yes, and what was it, Pender? No. One of our 2 EOC types. We had a event at the LEPC where we kind of went over all that and kind of said our piece is a nice way to say that.
That is a nice way to say it, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So it's not like we're,
there are definitely active, engaged discussions and.
they're not in our jurisdiction because they're not in the city limits, but it does impact our citizens. So there's some things we can do and there's some things we can't do.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. The city limits didn't stop the air coming this way.
And like I said, the health hazard is fairly minimal to this, so it's not that it's not that it's great, but you know, that slows some people's, especially, you know, EPA and TCQ, as they have levels of impact and how they prioritize their response. But the community is getting enough feedback to them that that's one of the things that changes their priority is complaints and community involvement, and that's definitely changed some of it. Like I said, I think a lot of this problem and issues would have been mitigated with a little bit of public education and a little bit of openness on behalf of the industry.
And just to add a little bit to that, Garrett, I just got a message from our OEM. Apparently, within the last couple of days, we're seeing a pretty good uptick in social media being discussed. So it sounds like our next LAPC meeting might be well attended from what I'm seeing on Hudson County Breaking.
And there is a website people can go to make complaints, correct?
Yes, yes. Anybody can make a complaint on any, whether private citizen or industry.
Right.
That they feel is violating state law on the TCQ website.
Yeah, that's to the TCEQ website. It's
Yes.
not a city thing, or it's not our LEPC.
Right. That's what
Correct.
I've told people before.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Other questions on that?
Nope.
Jason's also been working, we did finally get the master drainage plan combined into the hazard mitigation plan, so we'll see a resolution here in the next couple of meetings to formally adopt that, which is the last step in that grant and the last step needed to make those projects eligible for grant funding. IT also in the last month has been working, they finished all the hardware work on the radar project with Pantex. So there's still a little bit of conduit, some stuff like that that's on back order, but that's about 95% completed, just in time for the season. They've also been, we're doing some personnel change over there, so Dustin Henderson's gonna take over our new IT GIS position that we've kind of created. And then we'll hire a new IT support position to replace the opening we have down there. So we're kind of reorganizing that department a little bit with that opening as our needs have changed. And dispatch, Sydney Jordan started her duties as the new dispatch supervisor, replacing Rebecca Kersey, who stepped down. She, with some personal changes and some other things, she felt she'd be better as a dispatcher instead of the supervisor. So we wish them both good luck in their new positions. We had the new dispatchers complete their TLETS full access class. One scored a 97, which, you know, it's like 100 and something. The full access test is quite involved. So that's really good. And we had 4 dispatchers go through the sexual assault training for dispatchers classes. So they were all appreciative of that. So it was a really good class. So public engagement, last month, you know, Deidre worked really hard to coordinate our city softball game just to have it rained out. So such is work for the government and probably, I guess, baseball. We have started recording some podcasts, so we're gonna start kind of having some podcasts focusing on city workers and city services and things like that. So we're working on that. She also put together the film-friendly requirements that are on the agenda today, which are necessary to earn our film-friendly designation, which she'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to that agenda item. They're also working with Nicole in downtown for some summer events so that we can kind of have a good slate of summer events downtown and maybe some mini mural events. We've also been talking to some local investors, you know, in the region that we might have some interest in some downtown projects, so we're excited to see what might play out of that, which kind of came from some of their conferences. She's also been working on a contractor's guide for the turnaround employees. You know, we've got last time I talked to Phillips, they didn't call this just a turnaround, they called it the turnaround.
That's what I've been hearing.
So starting in October, it's gonna be quite a big turnaround, and we're working on a guidebook that they can give that, you know, where to stay, what to do, where to get food, you know, some good things about that. Try to let our community get as many of the benefits from all those contractors being in town as we can while they're here. At the Small Town Conference, they also ran into the Day Tripper. If any of you are familiar with that particular show on HGTV, they highlight areas and what you can do to make a day trip out of it. You know, so just where to go, what to do in little areas. So he's interested in maybe coming and doing a segment on Borger and Hutchinson County. Pretty much all we got to do is line out some things for him and pay for a hotel room. So I think we're going to work and try to get that done. And of course, like we mentioned earlier, the Trash Bash, which is coming up, and working on our engagement and using that as a more educational basis now to kind of You know, I really wish sometimes that we should make every kid in high school go walk the median and pick up trash for a little while just to. And the other day, I was driving down Wilson, and this car beside me, the passenger just took her styrofoam cup, held it out the window, and just dropped it.
I wish you had lights on your car. And your key call card.
Well, you know, I used to always joke that I was never in the right car.
Seen a lot of that.
But, you know, I don't understand why it's so hard just to leave it in your cup holder till you get home and go throw it in the trash. But we want to take this opportunity with Trash Bash 2 to remind people of all the other services that we provide to try to make that easier, like the bulk waste self-help program where we'll come set the trailer, just throw your trash in there. You know, you get an extra 1,000 pounds of trash if you just take it to the transfer station, the limb pile and things like that. You know, we're pretty generous and pretty flexible in ways to keep you from having to dump your trash. It amazes me, people will go through 4 times more effort to illegally dump their trash than it probably would be to legally dispose of it. And then we're actively seeking sponsors for Boomtoberfest. They've done a pretty good job on that so far. We've already got 6 firm sponsors and 10 that have verbally indicated they're going to sponsor. So don't forget, we do have that Boomtoberfest coming this October, which we're excited about that. And that's what we've done in a month. Any other questions for me or city staff?
No, I don't have any.
No, I'm just going to echo that we're very pleased with the city manager and our employees. They are citizen service oriented, and I believe this council appreciates and the work you do to take care of our citizens. So thank you.
I would like to add one thing, and that is that some people don't understand that if they bring their limbs out to the curb, you actually sometimes have to call the city to come pick them up. They don't do a drive-by and just pick up.
Yeah, we don't run a regular route, so, you know, if you call the transfer station, they will come get them.
It might be a day or two, but
Yeah.
they'll get it. So.
And I kind of put a post out there today about that, just the different services we offer and just the ways to go about it. Because like you said, we don't know what we don't know, and we
Right.
don't have a crew that just drives around looking for that, especially if there's not a storm or something to where we anticipate that. But, I mean, all of our departments are so accommodating that if we can't do it, we'll at least give you an alternative or at least find a way to make something work.
I've been very impressed with the pickup and stuff like that. So.
And I would remind everybody too that we put it out there a little bit, it might not be widely known yet, but 273-0900 is our central phone number for the city now. You know, Linda Lou's out there that can direct you to, if you don't know if you don't know who you should call or what you need or who to go to, 0900, and they can route you to the right person, they can answer your call, that we can get you handled. So that way you don't have to try to figure out which phone number to call or where to go, 273-0900. And a lot of that is also on our website. If you go to borgertx.gov and select Report a Concern as one of the options, a big button down there that says Report a Concern, and there's all these little things that you can fill out to report concerns, and it'll go to the right department. And we're pretty good about getting to things when we know about them. I think a lot of people assume we know about them and then bitch that we didn't do anything about it.
Right.
Yeah.
I know I quit saying call Stella. I didn't quit.
273-0900.
All right. No further, thank you for your report, Garrett. We'll move on to the consent agenda. I'll let the council members review that real quickly. See if there's any questions, comments, heartache.
I don't have any. I don't have any questions.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion on item 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
I'll make a motion, we approve consent items 6 through 11.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item 12, consider and take appropriate action to introduce on first reading ordinance O-005-23, adding Article 4.12, commercial filming regulations to make Borger a more film-friendly destination. Ms. Thomas.
Yeah, so kind of like Garrett was saying earlier, we're working to obtain a film-friendly status designation for our city. So this is one of the 3 steps, is to basically come up with a set of guidelines or regulations for if you have an agency or, you know, a group that's coming in to film, that these could be enforceable, that they are council approved, and that anybody that walks through the door and they ask to film, you know, our permitting office can give them a packet, and this is basically what they're gonna be giving them. So we've already taken the class, we've already submitted the photos, we've had a lot of citizens submit some of the photos of their properties within the city limits as well. And so this is the 3rd step in obtaining that certification. And what's really neat about it is it kind of puts us in a verified database through the state of Texas, the governor's office, that says, hey, if you want to film here, this is a list of different properties, and it also narrows it down. So say that somebody's coming in and they're wanting to film, you know, desert type landscapes or perfect sky settings, things like that. It kind of narrows it down to what different things that we have to offer, even just with the photos we've submitted in. So even if they're looking for a laundromat to film in, apparently there's like a deficit of laundromats to film in. Things like that, it shows that, hey, there's a place in Texas, they've already got the guidelines, they're verified, here's their contact information. So it just puts us into that database, and vice versa, the same thing with the actual film groups. It verifies them as well, so it's not referring people to our city that's not verified. So it's kind of it works both ways. But this is the last step in it. We really tried to stick with the regulations we already had. We don't want to be difficult to work with. We don't want to add a lot of unnecessary fees. So we really just used the fee schedule that we already had in place, but kind of made it more simplified. So like we said, if somebody came in and they said, hey, we're wanting to film, what do we need to do? We could just kind of hand them this packet, let them look through it, and it protects us, it protects them, and it protects just our citizens in general.
So I might be on television.
We put you on there as well, just a whole section for you.
No. Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah, says we're open for business.
And it really, what's cool too is it doesn't just cover like regular film, it also goes into digital. So people that are wanting to film for video games, there's a lot of people doing that in Texas, abandoned buildings. Some people want to pay for demolition of a building, and since we have a 3-year wait list, why not? So it's things that you kind of wouldn't necessarily entertain.
If they want to tear a building down as part of the movie, you
If they
know.
want to blow something up in their movie, then
We
we'll
gotta-
let them do it here under certain conditions, okay. That sounds
But
good.
it just, like I said, it just kind of puts it out there, and it makes it very easy for people that are wanting to film to see what we have and why they should come here.
Okay.
All right. All right. Any other discussion? Comments, questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to introduce on first reading ordinance O-005-23, adding Article 4.12, commercial filming regulations to make Borger a more film-friendly destination.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item 13, consider and take appropriate action on resolution R-013-23, supporting the city of Borger's application to the Texas Department of Transportation's 2023 Transportation Alternatives Set Aside, also called TA, Call for Projects. Mr. Spradlin.
So the TxDOT Transportation Alternative Program is where they fund programs that are, like it says, a transportation alternative. And what that really means is pedestrian, bicycle, you know, other transportation network items other than vehicular traffic. So we put in an initial application earlier this year for the Bulldog Loop. And if you recall, the Bulldog Loop was called out in our Parks, Trails, and Recreation Master Plan. And so what this will do is it will create an 8-foot shared path sidewalk down Bulldog Boulevard, starting at, you know, up by McDonald's, all the way down Bulldog Boulevard, up around back by the Sheriff's Posse, up to the multi-use field, back down to St. John's Road, connecting the Horseshoe Pits, the back area, all the way up St. John's Road, and then coming back around. The way that we're gonna do it is not gonna quite come up, because we can't cross the terrain on that side of Wilson. is too much for a sidewalk, so it'll be open on either ends, but pretty much you'll connect, you'll have sidewalk connections at Wilson's and St. John's, Wilson and College, and then Cedar and Bulldog. And then we'll connect all of those facilities with an 8-foot shared use path, concrete path, and then we'll add bike lanes and markings to the roads, marked crosswalks. It's gonna end up connecting that across the easement behind Pantex and the stadium. So we'll get that concrete path in that easement area back there, which will come all the way back around to the dome. So you'll be able to make a full loop, walking or biking or whatever, you know. So we've got the bike trails and the nature trail out there, which are kind of off-road hiking, and now this will be our more improved road bike and improved sidewalk. So the project has an estimated cost right now of about $3.8 million. This is normally a matching, it is a matching grant, but communities certain communities under $200,000 are eligible for transportation development credits.
I mean, 200,000 population?
Less than 200,000 in population.
Yeah, okay.
And so if you meet income criteria and all of that stuff, well, it just so happens that the city of Borger is eligible for transportation development credits.
Okay.
So those will cover our match. So if awarded, this project would be built at zero cost to the city of Borger.
Sweet.
Now, we might have to fund it, you know, it might be a reimbursement, so I mean, some of the money might come out of our accounts while we're building it and then get reimbursed, but in the end, they'll reimburse for 100% of the cost, both with the state funding and the federal funding.
And this is passed down Fed money to state, basically?
Right. And so with the Infrastructure Act that was recently passed, the state's got more money than they've ever had in this project. From our discussion with the TxDOT Regional Office, especially, and I will take every opportunity, you know, to boast the benefit of planning and having the plans in place. But because we did the Parks, Trails, and and Recreation Master Plan, we are far ahead in the planning than most other communities that are applying for some of this. This project will link the new sidewalks that TxDOT is building on their roadways, so we get bonus points for that. So there are definitely some things going for us that could make this a pretty high probability of getting funded, so we're excited about that. But if this should happen, that $60,000 Parks Master Plan will have got us a $200,000 grant for play equipment in Huber Park and $4 million for a trail system.
That'd work. Yeah.
So,
Little seed goes a long way.
so we're excited about that. So this resolution is just the council's official actions to authorize the detailed application, understanding that if we are awarded, that we will be responsible for the match. Like I said, in this case, it should be development credits, but if for some reason that doesn't work out, we could potentially have a 25% match. But I think for this amount of money, I think y'all would be all over it anyway.
Yeah.
That's, you know, you see a lot of people walking out there. Myself, I walk out there, and a lot of people walk Huber Park, but a lot of people like to walk out there and maybe get some bicycles, but I think that would be good. I would love it myself.
I'm excited. It links a lot of high use facilities.
Yeah.
And so we get bonuses for that too.
Yeah.
So I'll entertain any other questions you might have.
I don't have
Other questions, discussions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution R-013-23, supporting the City of Borger's application to the Texas Department of Transportation 2023 Transportation Alternatives Set-Aside TA Call for Projects.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye, motion carries. Item 14, consider taking appropriate action to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? We stand adjourned.
Yeah.